Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dishing with Stephanie's Dish, the podcast where we talk to cookbook writers primarily and people in the food space. And I have been a fan of Amy Thielen's writing since the Midwest kitchen cookbook. That's what it's called, right, Amy?
The New Midwestern Table.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
totally drawing a blank. And
Close enough, really. I mean, I get you.
it was one of my first introductions to you, and I picked up the cookbook right away, and then I was so impressed and excited that you were a Minnesota person.
Hmm.
And then that was in 2013, and then you had the memoir in 2017, which was A Girl and Her Knife.
Give a girl a knife.
Why am
Also,
I doing
feel
this?
close enough. It's okay. I like that you did it twice. It's
I've done it twice. And now, okay, 2022, you
okay.
have
Now,
company. And
okay,
I will get
company.
that
That
one right because I'm actually holding the book.
is. It's an easier title, to be fair.
Well, and the book is kind of a cool shape. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a different feeling cookbooky shape, so I liked that. The
You mean
cover,
because it's a little bit larger and more square?
yeah, it feels a
Uh-huh.
little bit different and I liked it.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
and I noticed right away, just when I held it, I was like, "Oh, I like this new size."
Wow.
It also
Yeah, I
has
do.
a beautiful cover.
Thank you. It does.
Um, so one of the things I noticed right away when I started looking through the book is the timing because I mean, I'm a little geeked out because you're one of my favorite actual cookbook writers. And
Thank you.
also the memoir that you wrote was so beautiful and I I really felt intrigued by your story and also pulled in about like being in New York and thinking you're having like this food life and then being called back to the Midwest and sort of reshuffling your priorities about maybe what you thought was what you wanted wasn't what you ended up wanting because I think that happens to people.
It does. I mean, I never really expected myself to go back. In fact, the only thing I wanted was to leave town when I was 17. Um, so I never saw that boomerang effect coming, but it did. And it's been good. This is where so I'm back like outside of my hometown, which was small and I couldn't wait to get out of it. But this is where I can grow stuff and it's good for my cooking.
And your cooking, I feel like is evolved or is evolving
I want
from
to hear what
your
you mean. Yeah, I'm curious.
well, from your first book, and
Mhm.
maybe okay, your first book felt very like Midwestern, but also kind of home cookie. Like I felt like I could do the recipes and they weren't super hard. And this book feels a little more like you're leaning more into your chef skills and that you're
Really?
taking a
Okay.
little more risks on some of the recipes. There were a few things that I thought were kind of surprising that I'll tell you about as we go. But yeah,
Oh,
just a little more still rustic and still easy and fitting with the theme of that you don't have to wait for like a giant fancy dinner party to have company over. But also the recipes they had unexpected twists.
that's great to hear. I like that. I mean, I think the degree of difficulty here because it's a menu cookbook. So in a certain menu, you're gonna have one thing that you spend more time on, and then you're gonna have some like easy bangers, like that just kind of, vegetable sides that are super simple, just like boiled and buttered and garlicky butter, green beans and things like that. So I really did try to mix it up, but I think, after a certain amount of time as a cookbook author, I get a lot of feedback, and I start to, first of all, I want to do what interests me. And secondly, I am responding a bit to people who follow me, you know what I mean? And I have a real range, but I have a lot of people who I have to assume that my readers know something, I have some really, really good cooks who follow me. And I'm lucky. I'm grateful for that. So some of those recipes are, with those people in mind. And then others are like really a lot more, elementary and like, this is how you make a menu. This is how you, boil this. This is, like kind of basic stuff too. So I'm hoping that it has this like wide range of people who find something in it.
You might be the only person that could get me inspired to try strudel.
That strudel recipe is great. I want you to try it, and then I want your feedback on that. I worked on that recipe for the dough for years, like
Yeah.
literally.
Well, and your books are roughly about 4 to 5 years apart as I
Yeah.
look back. Was that intentional, or is that how long it takes you as a creative person to kind of birth it?
Well, this one took a little longer than it should have. Um, but the first two books, let's see. First one was 2013, and then 2017. So that's 4 years. I would say 3 years is probably, I would really wish I could do every 3 years more, 3 or
Yeah.
4. But this one took almost 6 probably because of the pandemic, mostly. And then there was a delay at the very end of 6 months that pushed it out another, you know, ultimately almost like a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, I don't want to be this slow, but let's be honest, I am. I'm slow.
And
What can I
it just
say?
is life too, you're doing your life.
Yeah, I
Um,
have a kid, and we've been driving him to his school, which is kind of far away, and so it was 2 hours in the car every day, and I'm just kind of pokey.
okay, so you drive your kid 2 hours to school.
Well, now he's driving this year, so there's less of that. But yes, I have been for years.
Just because it's a better opportunity and a better school for him?
Yeah, like the closest school to us, we are kind of out there. So the closest school is half an hour.
Okay. So,
And then it was like we wanted to get him into a different school, and then that's almost an hour
yeah.
away. So, I mean, the bus, we wouldn't even like put him on the bus because the buses are slow and it would take even longer. It's just like,
Yeah.
no matter what, it's a lot of driving. That's all.
I love it though. Sometimes driving's cathartic. Do you listen to podcasts or do you listen to books or do you just drive and listen to music?
All of the above and talk to friends mostly.
That's what I do too. I talk on the phone in the car. It's my favorite thing to do.
I used to call. It was like 8:30. There's Amy. I'm like, who are my friends that I can sit and gab with at this hour?
At 8:30, yeah, I used to call my mom and then she got sick and sadly she died. And
Oh,
I still, every time I get in the car and I have like extra time, I think about like, oh, who can I call? And like I still want to call her even after all this time.
of
Yeah, it was
course.
kind of a good time.
No, I talk to my mom a lot too.
When I look at your book, there are some so the strudel recipe is one that, like I said, I felt like it looked like challenging, but I felt like maybe I could do it because you talked about how you kept doing it. It was kind of cathartic for you.
It felt like meditation, is I
Yeah.
think what I said. Because, in the winter, it's like, do I do this huge to-do list or do I just kind of like throw it all off and just like pull strudel?
I
You
like
know,
it.
it,
Um,
I think it's fun.
you have a recipe that I can't believe I haven't seen it before because it
Yeah.
makes total sense. The deviled eggs that you turn into like a dip.
Yeah. Yeah.
I That is brilliant. And I was like looking at it and everyone can like when I talk about like on the Instagram, like this was kind of a whipped ricotta thing. And then there was like the whipped yogurt thing. And then there was the hummus. And
Yeah, there's been a
you
trend for like those soft, a puree on a small platter and then garnishes. Yeah.
and you did that with deviled eggs, which is so brilliant. How did you think of it?
I don't even know how I thought of it, but I think I was like blitzing up some egg yolks for something that I wanted, like a soft, fluffy egg yolk texture. And then I just went too far and it just got all smooth. And I was like, oh, that looks like hummus. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? So I just like added more back into it and like seasoned it up. And I'm like, this is good. And then I put it out for an appetizer. And I remember it was, I think my sister-in-law, she was there for that one for the first time. And she's like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is incredible. She's
Yeah.
like, I just ate so much hummus. And I'm like, it's not hummus, it's deviled egg dip. But it looks kind of like hummus, but it's really delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to making that. I donated a cocktail party for 10 for
Yeah.
a charity and it's coming up And, I said, okay, does anybody have like any allergies? And I have a nut allergy, a dairy allergy, and a gluten allergy. I'm like, wow, with 10 people, I really hit the trifecta here. So I was thinking maybe I would try something with the deviled egg dip. And also, you have an appetizer for a cast
Oh,
iron shrimp that
that's a
has the green olives.
yeah. Yeah, that should yeah, there's no nuts in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
But that's
thought that would be good.
mathematically some of these, sometimes you cook for people and it's just mathematically difficult, you know? It's like I mean, that's why the menu, you like add more side dishes and people if there's enough to choose from, people can kind of
Throw
pick
them
around.
in.
Yeah.
Um, Also, I was looking and did you take all your pictures or who took your pictures? Because they're awesome.
Oh, no, I don't take those pictures. No, my pictures are amazing. They're by Kristen Teig, who is a photographer that my editor at Norton paired me with, sort of. And oh, I just loved her. She takes so many risks creatively and is just up for anything. And oh my gosh, just the nicest person. So humble, so talented and humble.
Do you shoot like I've seen and read about how cookbook authors shoot with a professional photographer, where it's like you schedule a shoot and you make a bunch of stuff and then you get the lifestyle scenes. Do you do that all in one swoop?
No, and in the two cookbooks I've done, we've done it the same way. We've done really 2 or 3 shoots, so that you can capture all the different seasonality,
Yeah.
you know, because I want people to comment like that first week of August so we can get tomatoes, eggplant, beautiful zucchini. In Minnesota, northern Minnesota, we can still have peas. um, if I plant them right, beans, all this stuff is like so beautiful and you can't get that from the grocery store and get the same effect. And then we always do a winter shoot too. So you capture that cozy feeling and all the snow and squash and all that stuff.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of pictures of people too and like action doing things with
Yeah,
your long coat.
real parties that, my real friends came to and thank God they're good sports. I mean,
Yeah, they look like they're good sports. You've got the tomato pie, raspberry, or a rhubarb pie. One of the things that I wanted to ask you that's kind of a strange question, but you use bacon fat to roast cauliflower. How do you store your bacon fat? Like, do you store it underneath the counter in a coffee can like our moms did? Or, I mean, is that
I don't put it under the sink in a coffee can. I've never understood that. Why? I don't know. I keep it on the counter. I pour the bacon fat into little ramekins,
yep.
and then I mean I just use it enough. And if I feel like, it keeps at room temperature, but I will sometimes put it in the fridge. And lately, my spoiled dog, I have been, scraping up the bacon fat. I give it to her because she likes a little bit of bacon fat on her kibble,
I
you
give
know.
fat to my dog too. It's good for them.
I know. I'm like, I should be saving this, but I love you so much. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Can we talk? You had one of the first, I guess in my mind, I felt like it was one of the first shows on the Food Network that felt less produced and like real. And
Hmm.
that's kind of more of a trend now, or has been as of late, where you really are in someone's real kitchen. And I know that there's obviously production values, but did you enjoy that experience? And would you do that again if the opportunity arose?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of enjoyed the experience. I when I think back on it, it's kind of a blur. It came on so quick. I mean, it just like it happened, I'm not somebody who spent all of these years trying to like do my platform and try to get on TV. In fact, I didn't. It wasn't even my idea. It was Random House's idea, and there was a Peter Gathers is my producer there, and he, saw my book, and it's just like this is what we want to do. So by the time that he approached me with it, it was already like I'm producing it. Lydia Bastianich is producing it. We're kind of come to your house. What do you think? And I mean, there's nothing left to do but say yes at that point, right?
Of
And
course. Yeah.
it was
What
it was a blast. It was super fun. I enjoyed it. It definitely is a blur though. I don't know if I remember. It was hectic. And
I
it
bet
was
it was
really
hard.
weird. It was odd to walk around my small town, the town I grew up in, and to be on TV.
Yeah, I'm sure.
you know?
I'm sure.
Um, what I loved though about that was that like all of these people who I sort of didn't really know, but I knew, they all had to make eye contact with me. And at first I was like really weirded out by it, you know? I'm like, ah, but then I was just like, oh, they just want that, you know, like I see you, you see me, this is real life, this is not the box. And so then I was just like, hi, you know, oh yeah, Mr. Larison, gotcha. You know,
Yep.
you know, I got
That's
you
funny.
know, just kind of like and and then it was just that was all they needed, you know, and it was really comfortable because people are just like, oh, look at her, she's not wearing makeup, she's like walking around
Yeah.
in her sweatpants, you know.
Was Lydia on set at all? Because I mean, I would think as someone who, I mean, she's like the grande dame of Italian cooking. How intimidating.
Lydia Bastianich is lovely and she was an incredible producer. You know, she's just like, she came the first day and she's there she is. And she's like, you just do, you teach, just do what you do. Don't even think about it. And I
I
have to tell,
did.
I was in, you know, we'd turned my laundry room into like kind of my dressing room and the guy was doing my makeup in there. And the first thing she said to me, this is kind of crazy, but the first thing she said to me is she goes, oh, because I was like trying to adjust my blouse. And I was like trying to keep it closed because it was kind of popping open. And she's like, this is good. You got the meatballs, which she meant, you know, got
Yeah,
boobs, you got boobs, you got
yeah,
meatballs. That's what, yeah, you got it. So
that's
that was pretty
funny.
hilarious. That was a good icebreaker. I thought I had to laugh.
Yeah, I think about that with clothes when I do TV stuff because I have had that experience where that button is gaping open
I know.
and you can see like flesh and it's very awkward and weird for everyone. And then I'm like, okay, and there's Giada, like always looking like $1 million in her very tight fitted shirts.
Well, and she always wears the same shirt because that
Yes.
shirt doesn't gape open. You notice, you know, and that's what you learn after like a decade of being on TV or even after a year. You learn how to dress yourself for, you know, all of those kind of weird things and like, you know, your apron's not like caught up on one side of you and like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just they're little things that I mean, it kind of drives you nuts.
I'm
I'm really
actually
glad
wearing,
to not be doing that right now, you know, that part
yeah,
of it. I didn't love like that, like being a woman on TV. You know what I mean? That I don't know. It was uncomfortable in that sense, you
yeah.
know.
I'm wearing I have figured out a shirt that I can wear underneath an apron. I've bought it in 7 colors. That's all
There
I'm
you go.
gonna do. And I'm just gonna wear the same shirt. I'm like, if that's what Giada does, that's what Ina Garten does. Like she just wears her white shirt usually or a blue shirt.
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. So um when you first saw your galley, like your this book put together, what does that feel like for you?
Well, this book company, I mean, it was very hard won. It took me a long time to write this book. So I was relieved, you know, I was really happy to see it actually in form. The book changed a lot as I was writing it. And the pandemic, I wrote a lot of it during the pandemic. So I'm writing about having people over when ironically we cannot have anybody over.
Yeah.
And it changed the book, you know, because it made things it gave things more weight. It gave everything I was writing about more weight. And I found myself getting kind of emotional and then like pulling back and then, you know, going for it. And then, you know, yeah, I was emotional.
It's funny because I feel that. And I
Yeah.
think,
But
yeah,
not
because
too much, hopefully.
no, in a way that feels very personal to you,
Mhm.
and in a way that I was appreciating about you and about it, because I think that the first book that you had before the memoir was sort of like easy breezy, Midwesterny. But then the memoir, we learned so much more about you, and you were a more complex person and not just this TV cooking lady face. So all of that kind of came together for me actually in this book. And maybe that's what I meant when I was like, it's more in depth. It's not as easy as the first one. It feels more like you really are in your real life, I think.
Yeah, like that you have to know that that first book that I did was kind of like a project. It was like I was going to write this anthology of like Midwestern food and put all my twists and spins on it after being a fine dining line cook and all that stuff. So that was kind of more of a I didn't even really see myself in that book,
Funny
but
you say that.
I was trying to keep myself out of it. Like I'm like pipe down with all these personal stories, man. It's not about you. But then it was like the TV thing happened and all of that kind of grew. So there are personal stories in that book. And then of course the memoirs like Changing Lanes, you're really writing about yourself. But I was trying to do more like the arc and the narrative arc of like almost like a literary memoir
It
where
felt like Ruth Reichel's.
thank you.
I
Yeah.
mean, it really did.
Every voice is different, every voice is me, but with every book, the voice is slightly different. And this book, the latest, my joke is that this is my crabby grandma voice. It's not crabby, but there's a lot of like, oh, don't do that. I've done that. Don't make that mistake. Don't make my mistakes. Like there's a lot of talking about cooking and um just a lot of explanation about visual cues and like sound cues. And instead of what I've realized is that, recipes, I like to dial them in. So they're as tight as they can be, but they're by nature imprecise because all of the ingredients are natural. So there is natural variance, right?
Yeah.
And so I've found that the way for people to have the most success is if I'm going to explain and talk about it's not about how many minutes you're roasting it, it's what it looks like.
Yeah. And you do that. You talk about
Yeah.
like, this is how it should look, or if it looks like this, give it more time. I think that's why I felt like I could do the streusel or strudel because
You
I
can do
was
this.
like, oh, okay. I think, I don't know. I just read the whole story and I was like, oh, I think I actually could do this.
It's going to be great. It's beautiful.
Um, yeah,
And so
I'm
this
gonna
one is
do it.
it's pastis du Quercy actually. So it's a strudel, but it's based on a French regional dessert and it's coiled. It's filled with like there's not a lot of filling. It's mostly pastry. A little bit of filling of like booze soaked apples and they're macerated in, and then you roll it up into a big coil and you coil it, almost like a traditional Greek spanakopita, like
It's
a
what it looks like on the top. Yeah.
yeah. And then you bake it until it's like all the layers are very crisp inside. And then when you slice it, it's beautiful.
You have a whole Thanksgiving menu too that felt really Midwestern, but not, which I liked because it had twists on things that I hadn't really seen in a Thanksgiving preview before. So I was excited about
What
that.
stood out to you there?
The appetizer, and I can't even, it was something I had not heard of before. Um, not a, it was the livers. Hold on, I'll find it. And then you
No, I
also,
can't remember.
I just went past your Theilen family Christmas. I thought that was sweet too.
No, well, thank you.
Amy, I'm afraid to write about my family Christmases because I think if I do, I'll just be like, oh my God, they were so dysfunctional because my family Christmases were like Jamie Lee Curtis and the bear. Just, these like total disasters.
I haven't gotten to season 2 yet. I don't know what that
Oh,
is, but you know, if you read the Christmas part, I'm talking about my parents' divorce, so it's not like I'm making it all sweet, even though it ends up being kind of sweet. It's just about the traditions that we each took away and how those developed.
okay.
Um,
It was the pate grand mère.
pate grand-mère. Now that's a very classic French pate that I got obsessed with, perfecting. And so a
And
lot of these holiday things they are kind of classic. I really wanted to drill down into the classics.
I love too the picture, I just passed it, of you with the Vitamix
Yes.
and making I guess what would you have been making? Because it's green. The honeydew and cucumber salad maybe with the cilantro lime dressing. I
Exactly.
I love that picture because I did something similar and then the top blew off because I was
Oh,
making soup and I hadn't depressurized it and I had green soup all over my kitchen.
was it hot soup,
Yeah.
Steph? Oh, I'm sorry.
So
That
I saw
happened to
that
all of
picture.
us
I was
once.
like, done there. Um, all right. Well, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the cookbook because we're going to talk to you on Weekly Dish. And I don't know. I'm a huge fan and I really didn't know what to expect from this book from you after the memoir. And it is everything that like I loved about you as a person that felt like all those things came together. And this feels really like you.
Thanks. That's means a lot. I mean, I've always appreciated your support from the
Oh,
2013.
do you remember when you came to the radio station and we toured your son around the TV station?
Do yes.
So cute and so
It
little.
was so fun to be on. I love being on radio too. It's so fun.
Oh gosh, because I think I've told you this before. Stephanie is finally starting to take a little more vacation time because her son is older and he's at college.
Mhm.
So there'll be some fill-in time. So I'll connect back up with you.
Only,
Yeah.
or I
And you
can
can do
come
it from
there.
your house. So it's good.
Well, I love to talk on the phone, so
I like it.
basically the same thing.
The book is Company. It's Recipes, Menu, and Advice by Amy Theilen. The subtitle is The Radically Casual Art of Cooking for Others. I feel like it's just after coming out of COVID, where we were all so independent and living sort of these solitary lives within our family unit. And then we had it took 2 years to have like what I call the hot girl summers, where we were just like, ah! And now I feel like we're kind of getting all the good parts of COVID, the reflections, the thinking about what we want in our lives, the way we want to live our lives intentionally moving forward. Because there
Yeah.
were some lessons and some good things that came out of it, but you had to get past the trauma and come out first, right? I think we're so changed. Everyone's changed.
Yeah. I mean, it takes, I realize about me that it takes me a while to understand things, you know, um, and process. And
Yeah.
so I also feel, yes, that I feel that way too, that what I see going forward for having people over or just entertaining is like more sustainable, you
Yeah.
know? I like doing it on the regular, you know? It's not like something you have to work up to and stress out about and all of that. It's about taking that time also for us, the cooks,
Yeah.
because that's what, for me, it's like relaxing to stand at the stove and start cooking at like 2:30, 3 o'clock, whatever, clear everything off. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just cooking for people. Then they're gonna be there in 4 hours, or
Yeah.
3 hours, whatever. Um, so that's the timeline of this book, like the narration or what time zone we are in inside it is before people get there, you know? It's like
Yeah,
me,
I
you
really felt that.
cooking, you know when people show up, you're on your. I'm not going to talk about your how you set your table, or I mean whatever.
Yeah. Yep. And I
I'm no
think,
expert on that. But I do love to cook. And it's kind of like it's kind of a it's kind of a self thing too when you're cooking for other people.
yeah, you're giving them your gift of yourself, gift of your time, gift of your talents.
Hmm.
I wish people would entertain more. I like entertaining.
Yeah.
We grew up in a house where if we were entertaining, it was a huge deal because you had to clean the house for a week first before you could even, and then it was like these elaborate, and my poor mom would just, by the time the event happened, she'd be exhausted and completely crabby.
Because it's trying to be aspirational. And I do think that the pandemic really did shift that for us all, because it made um Zoom and all of these things, all this technology, it made us more vulnerable and revealed our living spaces in a way that had never really been done before.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's true.
and it just made, I don't know, it just, yeah, it's like it's okay if this background is a mess,
Yeah,
I don't care.
absolutely.
You care? Nobody
No,
cared. We found out nobody cared.
nope.
And nobody cares if, there's some pajama pants in your bathroom.
And the whole wearing of makeup is like, I could care less now. I wear TV makeup, but at
Mm.
home or just running, like I do not care about makeup anymore. I discovered
My
that.
headband hair, I love headbands. It keeps it off my face,
Yeah,
It's that's me.
I love it. Well, thanks for your time. And again, I look forward. We'll talk to you a couple weeks for Weekly Dish, but people should pick up the book. It's a great book for a holiday and a great book to give to others to encourage them to gather with you more, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah,
It is
thanks, Steph.
company.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Amy. We'll
much.
talk soon. Okay.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
sounds great. Bye.